The reason that you either clicked on this video or are hovering over this video right now is plain and simple. You want to get better grades. You want to be a better student. You want to prove to yourself that you're capable. You want to prove to your parents, to your teachers, to the world, anybody who doubted you. And if you are watching this video right now, I know that you are more than capable. You can get those grades that you always dreamed of. You are going to put in the hard work. And trust me, you are already ahead of 90% of other students who would have scrolled straight past this video. Today, I am going to teach you that learning doesn't have to be boring. Today, I am going to teach you how to study anything at all. Whether you are at school, you are at college, you are at sixth form, you are at university, it doesn't matter. This is how you can learn anything, with or without a teacher. The first step to studying any subject at all, at any level, is goal clarity. This is not about just jumping straight into content. If you dive straight in with absolutely no direction, you are going to get lost, you are going to lose motivation, and you may burn out. You need to think about what it is that you want to learn. And no, you cannot just have some broad topic like, I want to learn about chemistry. That is far too broad. What do you want to learn about within that subject? And the more specific this thing is, the better. The beauty of goal setting is that you can write out a list of things that you want to learn about, and you can focus on them one at a time. Secondly, how deeply do you need to understand each of these topics? If you are taking standardized exams like GCSEs, like A-levels here in the UK, you do not need to know absolutely everything about radiation. You only need to know what is on the specification. So your goal can be learn spec point 4.1.2 or whatever it may be. And finally, you need to understand why you have this goal. Finding your why is probably one of the most important things that you can do before you sit down to study. Otherwise, you lose motivation. This why has to be a long-term goal as well. It can't just be because I watched an episode of Gilmore Girls and Rory Gilmore looked cool in the Yale Library. It can't just be, I saw this cute TikTok and now I'm motivated. These things spark short-term motivation. You want this long-term motivation. You want this, I want to get into this university, or I want to have this career, or maybe it's, I want to prove to myself I am capable of getting an A star. The neuroscience shows us that motivation is sustained when your long-term goals are meaningful, especially when they activate this intrinsic motivation. So intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic, you are doing it for yourself, for your own sense of fulfillment. Extrinsic is because somebody else is telling you that you need to do it. Intrinsic motivation is associated with stronger dopamine-driven learning persistence. So find your why. Next up, you need to create some sort of plan or framework. Now, this is where a lot of people slip up. They say they want to revise for their exams in the summer, so they are going to revise this subject on this day at this time. I don't agree with this approach. Now, if it works for you, then that's great. You are creating structure for yourself. However, I find that this structure is far too rigid. If I say to myself, I am going to be revising chemistry for an hour every Wednesday after school, if I then find out that I have a badminton match, then that just throws off my entire revision schedule for the entire week. What if I have a test coming up for French on Friday? I want to be revising for that on Thursday. However, in my rigid study timetable, I have English on Thursday night. So what do? I recommend finding your windows, deciding how many topics for each subject you want to study per week. Now, this is one of those life hacks that not many people talk about. You should decide which tasks you want to do, as opposed to how long you want to spend doing them. When you say, I want to spend an hour revising math, you may be doing an activity that could have otherwise taken 20 minutes. So because you've allocated an hour to do that task. That activity will expand to fill the time that you allocated for it. This is called Parkinson's law. So you may say to yourself, I want to revise this topic and this topic and this topic for geography this week. I want to cover 3 different geography topics that I'm not currently covering in the class this week. Every week. You can have a rough idea of when you are going to do these things, and I recommend planning these out on a Sunday night or at some point in the week, because this allows for week by week flexibility. You may realise that you have this geography test on Wednesday, so you want to spend time revising on Tuesday night. However, if we zoom out, if we look at the big picture, we are going to identify those time blocks within the day that we tend to have every day. Maybe this is after dinner, maybe this is before school, and you are going to utilise those times. You are going to commit. You are going to say, right, I will sit down at my desk for 25, 30 minutes after dinner every single day and do some sort of revision. And then closer to the time, you are going to decide, right, I am going to revise history today and I am going to study this topic. Because we're not currently doing it in the class, I feel a little bit shaky on it. Without structure, self-study fails. But with too much structure, self-study fails. Allow for flexibility, find your medium, decide which times of the day of the week that you usually have free time, and plan by task. The more specific the task, the better. You do not plan by time. I want to revise 3 hours of maths every week. You want to revise this many topics, you want to revise this topic and this topic because that is what you are struggling with. Now, that leads on very nicely to what you are going to study. If you want to get better grades, you need to focus on those weakest topics in each subject. Now, remember that you are going to have stronger subjects and weaker subjects. I am going to tell you right now, plain and simply, you do not need to spend as much time revising for subjects that you find incredibly easy as you do for subjects that you find incredibly difficult. And this may be a relief. I am not going to lie to you, I really did not do much revision for GCSE business studies at all. On the flip side, I did so much revision for GCSE physics because I found it incredibly difficult. You are going to get a list of everything that you need to know per subject or per unit or per module. Whatever stage you are at of your education journey, you're going to look at all of the topics and you are going to rank them. You have probably heard this talked about before, but the red, amber, green checklist, it really is a lifesaver. Your teachers will bang on about it all of the time, but for good reason. Those topics that you really struggle with, you're going to highlight in red. Maybe you forgot. Maybe you actually never learned them. Maybe you weren't in the class, you were off ill or something. You really didn't understand it, or maybe you thought you understood it and then got 0 marks in the exam. You're going to highlight these topics in red, and then critically you're going to write next to these topics why you struggle with them. Is it a lack of understanding? Is it the fact that you forgot? Is it the fact you never learnt it? Is it the fact that you thought you understood and didn't get the marks in the exam? Moving on to amber, those topics you sort of remember, and you remember a few key facts. You remember the outline. However, you are not confident that you could get the marks in the exam if this topic cropped up. And then green, you are happy with. Now, your teachers have probably said it, but you need to start with these red topics. The reason for this is that they are going to have the highest yield. So what do I mean by this? You are going to gain the most by focusing on these topics. Why is that? Okay, let's say you were getting 0 out of 8 marks on a question on circle theorems in math versus getting 6 out of 8 marks on a question on Pythagoras' theorem. If you were to focus on Pythagoras' theorem, sure, you may improve. You may get 8 out of 8 on that question in your next test. However, remember that you are still getting 0 out of 8 on that circle theorems question. Imagine you then decide to focus on circle theorems, you then get 8 out of 8, and you've also still got 6 out of 8 on the Pythagoras' theorem question. You are going to improve your grade by more if you focus on these weak areas. And don't get me wrong, you can still focus on these amber topics, those topics that you're not getting full marks in. Though first and foremost, focus on your weakest areas, because a lot of the time you'll actually find out that the reason that you're struggling to get marks in other topics is because you lack this foundation of knowledge and understanding about these things that you are clueless about. Topics link together. Let's stick with maths for a moment. You can't seem to get your head around simultaneous equations because you never learned how to rearrange an equation. You never fundamentally understood that division was the opposite of multiplication. Understanding that will help you get those marks when you are doing simultaneous equations. It can make it all fall into place. Once you are studying, there are some core tenets that once you start studying, you need to understand that the learning process matters. Before anything, you do need to focus on this understanding. That's what I was touching on there. That's why I was touching on your red topics. Understanding them can help other things fall into place. Understanding things will help you remember them better. This deep comprehension builds mental models. These mental models of topics are stored far more effectively in your long-term memory. So focus on understanding before you move on to the next topic. Secondly, understand that you can't just revise something for 5 minutes and then remember it forever. Your brain is designed to forget. We all fall victim to something called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. The fact that if you do not review concepts, you are going to forget them. However, the more frequently you review them, the slower the rate at which you forget them. The solution to this is spaced repetition, like I touched. Pair this with active recall, so actively retrieving information from your long-term memory, and you will be unstoppable. Active recall strengthens these synaptic connections much more effectively than passive review, passive reading and writing, or highlighting a textbook. There are so many different active recall based learning strategies. We are talking past paper questions, simulating the exam under time conditions, retrieving that information without having a book in front of you, blurting, so writing down everything that you know about a specific topic from memory, the Feynman technique, so talking about a topic and teaching it to somebody else. This has proved to be so effective, and there are so many more. I have an entire video on this, so make sure you check my channel for that. And while you're at it, if you're enjoying this video, be sure to like and subscribe, because I am posting my top study tips and tricks every single day. And finally, you are going to stay on top of this revision. If you are going to actually commit, you need to use habit stacking and you need to reinforce that habit loop. What are both of these things, you may ask? Learning only sticks when it becomes automatic. If you are deciding to sit down every day and revise, if you're making that decision every day, you are going to seriously increase your cognitive load and you are going to experience this decision fatigue. The neuroscience shows that repetition of habits in a stable context actually reduces your reliance on motivation. If you have a habit of doing your flashcards every single morning before your breakfast, it becomes automatic. You're not thinking about it. You become so much more likely to stick to that habit. Habit stacking is the idea that you link studying or this new habit you're trying to develop, it's not revision, to something that you already do anyway. Let's say brushing your teeth. You do it, you don't even think about it because it's automatic. Every single time you're brushing your teeth, you are going to do a couple of flashcards on a flashcard app. Something as simple as that. Or every single time I finish my breakfast, I clean up my dishes, I am then going to sit down and try a practice paper question. It can be that simple. It can be when I finish my dinner, I am going to go sit at my desk, turn off my phone, and do this block of revision that I planned to do. Essentially telling your brain, when I do X, I also do Y. This links new behaviors to pre-existing neural pathways. It makes it so much easier to maintain. Rewarding yourself strengthens this habit loop. Even the smallest rewards increase this dopamine release. This reinforces learning behavior. This can be as simple as, if I do all of the revision that I wanted to do today, I'm going to let myself watch an episode of my favorite show on Netflix. It doesn't have to feed into consumerism. So many people do link it to consumerist behaviors, like, oh, if I do all of my revision, I can buy a new top at the end of the week. Sure, if that works for you, then it works for you. But I just need to sit here and tell you that it doesn't have to. Maybe you can reward yourself every single day with your favourite tea, or maybe it is going out to your bubble tea shop. Maybe it is watching an episode of something on Netflix. Maybe these 5 minutes of pleasure every single day compound over time. They keep you motivated, because inevitably self-studying isn't about motivation. It's about the systems that you develop. And if you have a robust system, you will become unstoppable. If you like this video, I recommend you like and subscribe. I am going to be posting my top study tips and tricks every single day until your exam. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments, and hopefully I will see you all in the next video.